And then over time, I figured, it sucks when someone is spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on a lawsuit that could have been avoided for less than 10,000. Like, I don't want to just keep waiting for people to get in trouble. I want to help them stay out of trouble. And so I really started focusing on a general counsel program where we served as outsourced general counsel for business owners in South Florida, so that they could get the legal help they need quickly, efficiently, and hopefully avoid some of the disasters. Now, again, one hand feeds the other. So when someone did have a disaster, we came in and we handled that side of it as well. And so that really helped the firm grow. But it was the fact that I grew up just loving business, and I think that's kind of why I fell into it.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to a brand new episode of the None of Your Business podcast. Lacey and Sean here with you today, just as we are each and every week. But this time, we're in two different locations. Unique format for us today. But the reason why we're doing this is because today's guest is super important. It's been a long time in the making. It's a topic that I think is super important to so many of our viewers and listeners for many reasons. One, because of his area expertise, and two, prime areas that you are probably concerned about. So I'm super excited to have this stimulating conversation with Brett Trembly. Lacey, anything that you want to add before we bring Brent in, because we're separated? I can't play off of you. You're going to have to tell me what you want to add.
I know we should have created a sign or something if I want to talk. Usually we're pretty good at this, but no, I think that it's really important for all of our listeners out there. This is probably a podcast you want to take notes on. I think that for us, we've seen that this particular topic we're going to talk about be the biggest vulnerability for entrepreneurs, service providers, and people who own their own businesses. And so if you are a business owner and you want to create protections around yourself, it's time to listen up.
What is up, Brett?
Hey, guys.
So great to have you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
You do a lot of these interviews. You add so much value to so many people's lives. But I know that, being in the legal space, in the field of law, probably somewhat of a double-edged sword. And so I'm sure that a lot of our viewers and listeners can relate. Yeah. You're not always excited to talk to your lawyer. This is a rare case when we have a lawyer on, and I'm super excited about being here.
The conversation and discussion, yeah.
Let's start off with that. I mean, we always start off with this question: how do you end up being here? Because look, everybody probably is like, well, here comes Brett. I'm sure that his dad was a lawyer, probably graduated, bang, partner in the law firm, probably didn't even have to put in any time. So of course he's here chilling out, giving us some advice. But we realize that that's not always the case. And it's always fascinating for our viewers and listeners to understand the journey that brings you here and why you're so passionate about the things that we're talking about today.
Sure. Look, I feel though we should mention before people go, lawyer, boring, turn off, that hopefully we're going to talk about staffing and offshoring and that fun thing today, because that's something that people are very passionate about. Sometimes people have, their opinions on it. So it can get fun that way. But I just, if I heard lawyer podcasts, I'd be like, shoot, myself. And that's coming from a lawyer. So just wanted to mention that. But no, I do not come from a family of lawyers, or really from money or anything like that. So when I started my law firm, it was rough. I was in a new city in Miami, which I didn't grow up in, and just made the leap. Like I've always been confident in myself, as I think a lot of entrepreneurs are. And so I knew I would be able to get it done. I just didn't quite know how hard it would be. Like I think probably a lot of people listening to the podcast have been high achievers their whole life. And so school really lies to you. Like if you do well at school and then you're getting accolades and grades, like that means nothing in the real world except, potentially getting you a job. And so, surprised to myself, I really struggled for the first 2.5, 3 years when I did own, I started in late 2011. So 2012, 2013 were pretty rough years for me. A lot of stress, a lot of anxiety. And, like that's the real part. Everybody wants like, oh, I'm this and everything's great and I'm the best business owner ever. But that's not true for 99% of people, right? We had to learn and figure it out. So I know I'm not directly answering your question, Sean, but I just want to throw that out there that, we can have a real conversation today.
Yeah, and you are actually directly answering the question because there's, to me, three elements here. And like you said, if we've made it this far, I said there were two topics that were very interesting to all of our viewers and listeners. So one, of course, topic of being in business. You deal with a lot of legal aspects of basically all things, what we would call corporate and business law, all things there. And that's obviously very interesting to our viewers and listeners. But then, of course, as you said, there's your own business. And that's one of the things that I super like. I love when we're dealing with two areas, and I'm not trying to group you in, but there's no guilty by association here, but CPAs, accountants, and lawyers who are also entrepreneurs. Because it's super easy to be a lawyer who doesn't understand the entrepreneurial journey. That's just, saying, hey, these are the facts, this is how it is. But somebody that can be compassionate with an entrepreneur, I think is super important. Let's start there. So you open your law practice, and tell us, like, how do you start getting into this? Were you always passionate about subject matter that you are today an expert in? Did you start out general law? Were you taking on clients of all types and then found what you loved? How did you sort of navigate that in the beginning?
Okay, so look, I was the kid who like sold things in school in first grade, right? Like I always kind of knew, and then I had some vending machines in college, and I always found ways to make my own money. So I kind of always knew I'd be in business for myself, or at least I wanted to. Of course, I think the right offer, like if somebody had made me a good offer, they could have bought me away from my dream, which is sad to kind of think about and admit, but I think everyone can think about that kind of moment, right? Like I'm comfortable, so should I really take that risk? And comfort is really the enemy of progress. And so, but anyway, in law school, I was on the trial team, and I love litigation. And then I worked for a litigation firm right out of law school. But they were trying to do a little bit of everything, like door law, right? Whatever comes in the door. And so it's really frustrating to be doing criminal defense, not even joking, probate, family law, personal injury, commercial litigation, like everything. And it was so frustrating. And so when I started my own firm, I did litigation. I wanted to stick to business disputes and helping business owners. And then over time, I figured, it sucks when someone is spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on a lawsuit that could have been avoided for less than 10,000. Like, I don't want to just keep waiting for people to get in trouble. I want to help them stay out of trouble. And so I really started focusing on a general counsel program where we served as outsourced general counsel for business owners in South Florida, so that they could get the legal help they need quickly, efficiently, and hopefully avoid some of the disasters. Now, again, one hand feeds the other. So when someone did have a disaster, we came in and we handled that side of it as well. And so that really helped the firm grow. But it was the fact that I grew up just loving business, and I think that's kind of why I fell into it.
I love this idea too of a business attorney, because I think that, we work with a lot of clients on a day-to-day basis. And I think that so many times when they decide that they want to hire a lawyer or talk to a lawyer, it's a very reactive approach. It's because something already has happened, right?
Yeah.
Which is not the route to go. And so many individuals, we tell them all the time, you should have a business lawyer in your back pocket. You should have somebody that knows your business, understands you, works with you. It's the best way to go about it. So what advice would you give for an entrepreneur? Like, when should they talk to somebody like you? And then secondly, what kind of trouble do you see small business owners typically getting into?
I tell clients all the time, or I guess people when we're just meeting them, you should have a lawyer that's like either on retainer or just knows your business really well, a really good CPA and a good insurance agent, who doesn't sell you the wrong things, but who protects you from the right things. Like that's a very good team to have in your hip pocket as you start a business and you start to grow a business. Unfortunately, and you guys mentioned CPAs. I have I shouldn't say a lot. I mean, a lot of good friends are CPAs. One of the big mistakes that we do see in terms of people getting in trouble is they go to a CPA to open their business. So the CPA gets them their EIN number, right? Registers them as either an LLC or an S corp or a C, whatever it is. Those are just tax designations, right? But they don't always understand the difference between that and the legal entity and the legal implications. And then they buy them a binder, which is like fancy, right? It has their name on the outside, and it looks real fancy. Like you have your corporate minutes, and you open it up, and there's nothing inside. CPAs basically can start to prevent a business owner from getting the legal work done that they need because they give you your incorporation documents, and so you think you're covered. So if you are just a solo entrepreneur, it's a lot less necessary that you need a lawyer on your team from day one. But if you have a business partner, I don't care if that person has 0.0001% of your business, right? But if you're coming into business with multiple people, my God, please, you have to get lawyers involved. And, nobody likes the lawyer that slows things down and everybody, handshake and move quickly and this and that and the other. Just total disaster because people over time have different ideas of where the business is going and life change. Well, I own 50%. Yeah, but you're not working. It doesn't matter. I own, like, you have to have a good LLC, what's called an operating agreement, which used to be called a partnership agreement, right? But it still can be if you're a partner. Those two things coincide. You have to have a good agreement from day one, or if you don't, get one today, because the amount of pain that comes with investing years of your life into a business when you don't have your documents in place with your business partner or partners is just terrible.
Oh, I know Sean has a question, but I have to say that is such good advice. And we tell people all the time, partnerships are like marriages. And when they dissolve and you separate, it's just as bad as divorce.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
it's kind of like having a prenup for your marriage. Not that everybody getting married should have one, but in business, you should definitely have somebody look at that. And we have seen partnerships go really sideways, really bad. Yeah.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
Before I transition into your business and delegation and outsourcing, one more question that I think is very important because the information age and the technological age has changed a lot of things, and oftentimes we hear people say, again, same two groupings of professionals with accountants and lawyers. Well, I want to have somebody local to me. The idea before was accountants could only file in certain states, and likewise, when it comes to law, you said you were in Miami. So speaking to a nationwide or even international audience, not trying to put you in international law, but what are the boundaries? What if somebody's not in Florida, not in Miami? Could they use your services?
Yeah. So unfortunately, that's everyone's favorite answer in law, which is it depends. We have clients all over the United States, but if sometimes the answer is no, we shouldn't represent you because you have so much going on locally or in your home state that is important, right? Other times like you're an internet company, or you do things, nationwide anyway, or even statewide, and you just need your contracts in place, and it's not really state specific. And so at that point, usually we can help somebody regardless of where they are. But there's just nuances there, to try to answer your question a little more appropriately. We've got attorneys licensed in New York, and we have clients, out west. It depends on the type of business. Let's put it that way, and it depends on the state, because some states have different regulations. Like some states view it where if you even look at a legal document and you're from another state, you're practicing law in that state, and others are a lot more relaxed. So I hate to give that "it depends" answer, but if somebody is, and again, we work with people we know, like, and trust, right? You can't really know me from listening to one podcast, but if you think like, hey, that's someone that I wouldn't mind dealing with in business, and giving business to and working with, and you're in another state, we're happy to talk to you. And then if we can't help you, find somebody that we know, like, and trust in that state, because I especially have a network of lawyers and all throughout the country.
One of the things too, was when I was researching you and looking at your website, I saw that one of the things that you specialize in is employment law. And I think that this is really interesting, because I think that a lot of business owners don't necessarily think about the vulnerabilities that they will bring on once they start hiring employees, or even 1099 for that matter. And then I know that you also have a staffing company. So I'm sure some of your experience in employment law helped you to create the staffing company. But can you tell us a little bit too about new business owners, solopreneurs, as they grow and scale, maybe what they need to be aware of and what's appropriate for them to get a lawyer to help them out with?
Yeah, so it's a really good question. And hiring has so many pitfalls, which is unfortunate, because we're out there taking the risk, right? We want to provide jobs to people, and yet it's really easy for those people to turn around and sue us for a lot of money plus attorney's fees. The whole 1099 versus employee, thing that you mentioned could be a whole podcast of its own.
Misclassification, I know, right?
Right. And and then of course there's tax implications there. But look, what I will say is, it's important that you classify people the right way. It's important that you protect yourself. It's important that you have, if you're paying people hourly, or even if you're paying them salary, because people get this wrong too. Like, well, I'm paying my person salary so I can work them overtime. It doesn't matter if you're paying someone $50,000 a year, but they are a non-exempt employee because they're not management level. Then you can't just work them overtime and not pay them. You have to pay them equivalent to their hourly rate, and then pay overtime. So you do that for several years. They turn around, they sue you. They're suing you for a lot of money plus attorney's fees, and it's just really frustrating. Now, I'm not advocating, like, if bad business owners who are taking advantage of people, yeah, they deserve it, right? But when you make mistakes and you don't have if you don't have clock in sheets, right, or time sheets, which now can be done very easily with your cell phone or electronically, the presumption is that they did work overtime. So you have to overcome the presumption that they didn't work overtime. So yeah, wage and hour lawsuits are rampant. There's a lot of ways. When you fire someone who's over 40, there's federal implications if you're not careful. Again, this could be a whole big podcast, but it's important that you get a good HR and payroll company involved, and then also an attorney involved at certain stages.
Well, you have a service called Get Staffed Up, getstaffedup.com. Tell us about that transition for you personally, and your business. How did you start to figure out that maybe this virtual option might be, and outsourcing and delegating certain things might be a good option for you? Because I know a lot of people really struggle with that. It's one of those things that we know people intellectually understand. Yeah, it makes a good idea, but there's always that control part of it too. And then, like, what things should I allow a virtual assistant or a virtual staff member to take on because I don't really have that personal contact with them. Tell us about what happened with you, and then we'll talk about your offering at getstaffed.com.
Okay, so there's a lot there, right? And you do have personal contact. You have a lot of personal contact, just not in-person contact. So we're all virtual. You guys are separate, and you're doing podcasts, right? It's like, oh, wait a minute, I don't have to be next to someone in order to have a good business or get work done. No, so many things can be done virtually. So I struggled early on. I finally started hiring in the summer of 2014. I hired my first person. God, this is such a longer story, but I was terrified that I couldn't pay them. I had to learn about myself that I had a big fear of failure, which goes back to your ego and what you think people are going to say about you. Finally made my first hire, doubled my law firm. Fast forward a year later, I had 4 employees and was hiring my first attorney. And then 3 months later, after that, another attorney. And I got the business to a pretty good point prior to this offshore idea that like hit us or hit my business partner sort of like a ton of bricks, like one of those sort of light bulb moments. So had a good friend who still is an attorney, had a law firm at the time. We would do, we're in a mastermind together, which if you're not in a mastermind, that makes all the difference in the world. We would have monthly breakfasts together. We would like read the same books. He kind of disappeared in late 2017 for a few weeks. I kind of thought it was weird. Pops his head back up, and he has 4 employees from the Philippines and 1 from Mexico. And I'm like what? How did that even happen? He went to lunch with some guy that he almost skipped. This old buddy of his told him about hiring out of the Philippines, so he started doing it himself. And again, we're not advocates of firing people or replacing jobs. He happened to have a few people leaving his law firm. So it just made total sense. And I'm like, dude, I need a marketing assistant. Can you find me one? So we did. And we were like, man, we're onto something here. If you hire an in-house marketing person for, let's say, $50K, right? But it costs you another 20, because anytime you hire someone, there's always the 40% extra that it costs overhead and the payroll and the taxes and all those good / terrible things. So you're paying, you don't realize it, but the true cost to you is $70,000 per year. You can hire someone for a fraction of that, for like through us, for example, $24,000 per year, $2,000 per month. And the amazing part is really get the same experience, the same output, the same, and sometimes even better attendance and better energy. So I was blown away, and we just said, yeah, let's do this business together. We spent the good part of 2018 setting up our systems, our recruiting. We wanted to have a good system in place, not just start willy-nilly, right? We wanted to be very organized. So we started July 4th is our the day we opened our door. We just had our 4th anniversary a few weeks ago, 2018, and it has just been gangbusters ever since. Early on, we were having to and by the way, we do offshore staffing. A lot of business owners, mostly lawyers. Niches bring riches, and so we stick to that niche. But what we don't do is outsourcing. So I wanted to make that point, is that when you outsource, you hire someone to do a job, and you give them the job, and then you get a result, right? What we call is like insourcing. You're basically, someone else is hiring for you, right? So we're taking thousands and thousands of applications. And by the way, we're no longer out of the Philippines. We're out of Latin America and South Africa. Everybody has to work your office hours. They show up on Zoom at 9 a.m. your time, or whatever time you work. They answer to you. They're part of your accountability chart, your firm culture. We just stay on as the legal employer, and we handle the payroll, the HR. We have a replacement guarantee. So if they leave, we replace them. It's just like such fast, efficient hiring for business owners. And by the way, hiring itself is a whole, like we could talk through the systems you have to have in place to be good at hiring yourself, and how hard it is, and how to create the right culture and those sort of things. So when you outsource, you're looking to get a project back or a result. When you essentially insource, we are the PEO, right? The Professional Employment Organization, just in another country. So we are the legal employer, but they work for you. They answer to you. You pay us and we pay them.
Yeah, I think that that's so powerful because not only do you have to be good at hiring, but you also have to be good at training, right? Your employees that you bring on in your brick and mortar business or into your space, you have to be able to train them. And that's the amount that you're going to get out of them. So I love that what you've created is not only a hiring system, but also sounds like some foundational training to get them prepared to be able to do some of the tasks that people are going to delegate out. Is that correct?
Yeah, so we put them through a whole week. We invest a ton of money. We've taken about 8,000 applications. We spit out about 100 a week. Spit out. That's, is what it is, right? I said it.
It is. You spit them out. You get rid of them.
We're whittling down thousands of people, trying to get to the best of the best. And then we put them through a whole week of what we call an academy. And only about 60% graduate from that academy. So we're paying people, 40% of the people, for a full week just to fail so that we don't put them in front of our clients. So then we truly take, the best of the best. And then we're placing them in front of you, and you get to interview them to see if you want to hire that person or you want to then interview the next person. So ultimately you're in charge of who you bring on. But yeah, so it's a fun process.
And well, it seems very clear to me that the process is solid, but that's because your business is solid. You are a phenomenal entrepreneur. Let's go back to a prospect of yours they need this. Sounds great. What would we tell them are the signs in their business that this is actually the best move for them?
Yeah. One of, I'm sure CPAs are similar, but not quite as bad. Lawyers can waste their lives away on email.
Oh.
It's like there's memes like, I didn't know I went to law school just to be on email all day. I mean, if you allow yourself, you will just answer and justify and argue with your own clients, right? And then argue it with opposing counsel, and you'll schedule. You have to create safeguard. It's such a miserable existence. I don't look at my email very often anymore. In fact, I probably look at it now on my phone more because I have 3 full-time assistants for myself. Than I used to, because there's so many other things in my life are delegated. So, anybody who's overwhelmed, which probably anybody who doesn't have their own personal assistant, if you don't have an assistant, you are an assistant. You are doing $10 an hour tasks for yourself that other people should and could be doing for you. That other person wants to do those things for you. They want to learn from you. They want to make money doing it for you, and you will then have more time and more money to go hire more people, make a bigger difference, and continue to grow your business. So anybody and everybody really, but the telltale signs are like, and besides, what entrepreneurs do we know, which is like who aren't overwhelmed and tired and who couldn't use more help? It's getting people to get out of their own way. We have an architect friend. No, I don't know, 1 in a million chance he would listen, right? He's always like, well, I need to hire a project manager. Like, no, you don't. You need an assistant to take care of all. Why are you answering your own phone at 8 o'clock? His own 10-year-old daughter asked him, like, why do you work so hard, Daddy, and your employees don't work this late? It's like, dude, get your administrative stuff in order. It pays you the least amount of money, because if you're when you're serving as your own assistant, you can only basically get paid like your own assistant, right? Because you're not doing legal work. You're not doing CPA work, whatever. Yeah. So I'll go on tangents all day if you let me. About
that line is gold, though. Yeah, that
great.
line. If you don't have an assistant, you are the assistant. Like that, I'm going to use that on my clients because that's the absolute truth. So just so you know, I'm stealing that. One of the things I wanted to ask you is, and I have just seen this in my own observation for clients that we have sent to other virtual assistant companies, I feel like the retention is higher too for those individuals. So do you see that? I mean, owning that company, do you see that those assistants stick around longer?
Much higher.
Yeah.
Look, we're not perfect. So you're going to have and we have, by the end of the year, we'll have 1,000 people placed in law firms and right. And we have 129 of our own employees. You're going to have people that it doesn't work out and they're terrible. And like, that person is such an immature entrepreneur. Human beings are not put on this planet to serve us, right? You have to earn them. You have to like create a good environment that they want to stick around. You, Lacey, you mentioned training. You have to be a good trainer or a coach. Those are learned skills. You have to be good at onboarding. It's a two-way street here. So we're finding really good people, and our best clients are the ones who have invested in personal growth themselves, invested in a few systems. And yeah, you learn that, and we'll help you with some of those things. But for those people, our the retention rate is very high, especially compared to domestically. Like people want to complain when something doesn't work out, but yet domestically, like you're lucky to be above 40% of your hire. And so, again, if you're being honest and non-emotional, and you just look at numbers, yes, much higher when you go offshore.
Now, Brett, you said lawyers, and you are a lawyer. We run into this all the time. If there's anybody that gets it, it's Lacey and I. So it's easy for people to think, oh, this is great. Get staffed up. Virtual staffing for lawyers. Is that just for lawyers? Are there use cases outside of the legal field?
Yeah, so we've got over 400 clients. Because by the way, when we hit 1,000, what we call staffed up of our VAs placed with our clients, it's because they're so great that our clients get a second and a third, right? So we'll have 1,000 by the end of the year. We'll probably have about 450, 500 clients. We have about 10% of our clients are non-lawyers, right? You're talking just a lot of other service business owners. We're not in the Amazon, the retail, the fulfillment. That's not our space. Like we're talking about human beings, full-time jobs that are going to work for other service providers and fill traditional roles. Because it's not just a VA, right? Who's just your personal assistant. This is someone who answers the phones full-time. So just a receptionist, their body is in another location. Just like we learned in the pandemic, it can be domestically in another location. Intake coordinators, client happiness coordinators, billing clerks. And we have a lot of CPA clients, by the way, Sean, a lot of CPA clients. We've got people that own, swim schools, the coaching programs. I mean, the parallels of what a business is a business, right? The product or the service of that business may be different, but the human beings that they need to help service the businesses, there's just so much overlap that we can help almost anybody.
I love that. Starting point. How does somebody get started then? Let's hope that we've convinced people to at least take a look at this. What's the first steps that they do to get going?
Yeah, absolutely. You said at the beginning, getstaffedup.com. We have our website is a heavy call to action site, right? So it says, talk to us now, you scroll, hire now, all those things. So it's very easy to find our contact page. You put name, number, email, and like that's it. And somebody will email you that day if it's after hours, the very next day, offering you times to meet with us. We've got, again, we're all offshore. No, that's not true. Now we have about 5 domestic employees ourselves out of the 129, but we've got a sales team. We call them our freedom teams. What we're trying to do is help you delegate your way to freedom, right? Try to learn to hire and delegate and get rid of things of 10 people. And so it's very easy to find us, to reach out to us, and we can answer in that call all of your questions.
Well, I got to tell you personally, I'm sure Lacey and I are both going to be sending you tons and tons of people because this is definitely a space that people are not actively conscious that they need this help. And by taking this leap, it can help to grow your business exponentially. I know that Lacey works with several outsourcing teams, and that's also a challenge later on. You start to work with this one and that one, and just like you were talking about with setting up your business properly from a legal standpoint. Well, the same thing with your virtual team, because it would be nice to have them all under one umbrella. It can create that cohesiveness and that culture, because you've got this person that's doing editing and they're on that team, and this person that you got for this other thing, they're over here. So starting out on the right foot with your virtual hiring, your virtual team, your virtual platforms. This is super important. So I highly recommend that you check this out, getstaffedup.com. You cannot lose if you go to getstaffedup.com. One last thing, and I'll turn it over to you, Lacey, but I just want to reiterate, Brett talked about the importance of a mastermind. I love that. All of you guys know that Lacey and I do every year at least one mastermind with David Meltzer. It's an experiential mastermind. 2023, when you're listening to this podcast, June of 2023, it's already sold out, but we are working a wait list. If you'd like to jump on the wait list, go to www.experientialmastermind.com. If we get enough interest, we'll launch a second group out there in beautiful Scotland with myself and Lacey and David Meltzer. It's going to be absolutely tremendous. Lacey, any last questions from you?
No, just a comment. I mean, again, don't forget at the beginning of this podcast, we talked about the importance of having a business lawyer or business attorney in your back pocket. And so I don't want our entrepreneurs out there to forget that you have a lot of vulnerabilities when you own your own business. And there should be somebody that knows your business as intimately as you do, so you can protect yourself from those things. I know that we have a ton of listeners in Florida. So if you don't have somebody, check out tremblylaw.com and connect with Brett, because I'm sure he can help you.
Brett, thanks for joining us.
Yes, thank you guys so much, Sean, Lacey. I had a blast. I love the mastermind. I just looked it up myself. That looks like that is a brilliant idea, and good for you guys. You're having a major impact, and I love your energy, and I really appreciate being on today.
Thanks for being on.
I hope that you'll come back again, because I still had a list of questions here.
Yeah.
I want to talk more about employment law, because people are messing that up. I want to talk about franchising. I know that you do that. Lacey and I have a lot of experience there. And I know that so many people, that's what they think, like the Holy Grail. I just want to franchise. So I want to talk about that and missteps. And of course, we could talk more about Get Staffed Up. And I'd love to have you back. Hopefully you will entertain our invitation.
Fun, guys. I'll come back anytime you invite me.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much. And thank you, all of you guys, for listening. We'll be back again next week with a brand new episode of the None of Your Business podcast.